Hey everyone, Syndex here with a Wargame Red Dragon video. I'm a relatively new player to Wargame, and I have less than 100 games, and I know a lot of new players have been getting into Wargame recently with all the Steam sales and Humble Bundle sales, things of that nature. This game seems to go on sale quite often. You can pick it up for pretty cheap, and it's a very complex game and a very complicated game, and sometimes a little tough to get into. So I wanted to share the deck I've been using since I started playing the game. I've been playing a USA deck, and it's been pretty well rounded. And I just wanted to give anybody out there who's new to the game an idea of maybe a deck they can start with, since this game has a very high learning curve, a very steep learning curve, and a little bit of a it's kind of a high what do they call high bar of entry, I suppose. A little tough to learn at first, and can be a little bit daunting and intimidating. So I'll show you what I use and what I have been using since I started. A lot of these units change, which is pretty much how you play Wargame Red Dragon. You're constantly changing your deck, so this is by no means constant, and by no means the law of what you should be playing. Always change your deck to what your playstyle requires, and you can do whatever you want with this deck. But here's a little bit of a base that I wanted to show people, because I don't think I had a pretty tough time finding and starting my first deck. So I wanted to do this so any new players out there might get a little bit of an idea. We'll start with the logistics area. We'll just go over these really quick and give you an idea of what they're for. Logistics, I use the Jeep. You get 7 of these, and this is your command vehicle. You will use this to capture areas along the map, and I like the Jeep. It's fast, it's cheap, and it's not very complicated. You know, it's not going to fight anything off. It's just something to sit in your zone so you can start getting the resources and benefits from them. And I take 1 fob, and this would be your forward operating base. You just leave in your starting zone and kind of go back and forth to get more resources, fuel, ammunition, things like that. And I think it's a good idea to always have 1 in each deck you make. If you ever know you're never going to be using, if you know you're going to go into a game not using a fob because somebody else has one, then you can cut that out. But it's always a good idea to keep that in a well-rounded deck like this. And then I take 6, 1 card of HEMTTs. You get 6 of those with it, and they carry a ton of supply. 2,400 is a pretty good number. You should only need 6 of those, and you can run them back and forth to your fob, and that should keep you supplied pretty well throughout any games you'll be playing. So that's a pretty basic logistics setup there. Nothing too fancy. No helicopter supplies, no helicopter CVs. So we're keeping it simple. Infantry, I like to have, like I said, this is kind of a well-rounded jack of all trades deck. Jack of all trades, master of none. You're not gonna, it's nothing specialized. So for infantry, I take some light rifleman 90, 1 card of that. This kind of uses my this is kind of my AT squad. They travel around in a Humvee because they're never really going to be toted all the way to the front lines. You kind of want to tote them in the second wave, in my opinion, and kind of keep them there just for specialty. You could take the SMAW, which is a good AT unit, but I like the light riflemen because they cover a few different things. They can be used as your AT, but they can also fend off some enemy infantry if they need to as well. So that's my choice for light rifleman 90 in a Humvee. And then I also take a card of Stingers, Stinger C, in a Humvee as well. Once again, these guys aren't frontline units, so I try to spread them out. I probably should have more than just 4. I don't know what the maximum are. You can have 7, but they're kind of a specialty unit, so I kind of try to keep them safe and behind the front lines so they can use their primary purpose of some light anti-air. And then I'll keep them around with my my various anti-air nets around the map. Put them in buildings around the around the sides of the map in case they try to sneak a helicopter past. You know, they can kind of pick them off. Be a little bit of a anti-air, anti-helicopter tripwire there. U.S. Marines 90, pretty big unit for USA. Kind of a bread and butter unit. Meat and potatoes, as so to speak, as some people would say. And I put one card of them in LVTP 7A1s, a very good support vehicle. It comes with, I believe, the grenade launcher is the big one that really people like that. The Mark 19 there, 40mm frag rounds. Very, very good at supporting infantry. You put these guys down in a forest or in a city, and they're pretty tough to kill. And then I have some if I need my Marines to be somewhere much faster than the LVTP can get them. Maybe I'll send these guys out initially in the Frog here. Marines, again, just really, really good units all around. And then I have Rifleman 90, which is very, very basic infantry, but when you throw them out there with the M2A2 Bradley IFV that comes along with the TOW2 missiles, that's primarily what you're spending. Obviously, look, if you notice a point difference here, the Bradley IFVs are more expensive than the actual infantry unit they're carrying, so you're more paying for the vehicle than you are paying for the infantry. The infantry is just kind of a bonus that comes along with it. So that kind of covers infantry. It covers a little bit of everything. AT, anti-air, then you got your shock troops for kind of city and forest fighting, and your riflemen can usually hang out in the forests, and they bring along a nice AT vehicle with them. As far as support goes, this will have your anti-air units such as your Patriot, which is what you want to knock jets around, knock down jets out of the sky. That's probably going to be your best bet for that. And PIVADS is a good suppression, anti-air suppression unit with radar, so you got to keep an eye on that. But it doesn't shoot missiles or anything, it just shoots a very, very fast-firing gun there. And then the other anti-air chaparral is your non-radar infrared missiles unit there, so that'll be good to kind of keep behind your radar units, such as your Patriot or your PIVADS, and that way you can keep these turned off, and then if they try to send an ECM, or I'm sorry, a seed plane, not an ECM, a seed plane, to take out your radar guns, keep your radar guns off, and your chaparral should be able to deal with them without too much trouble. So it's pretty good standard non-radar anti-air defense. And then your Avenger. I like the Avenger for my initial deployments usually. I can kind of throw it out there if I need to fill in a gap in my anti-air net, but it's got really good stabilizers and really good accuracy that you can kind of babysit your initial deployment of ground vehicles or even helicopters as well. So it's a good one to kind of throw in the mix of a ground unit deployment. That way, if anything tries to fly over you and take out your initial deployment, your Avenger should at least give it a little trouble before it does. And then the other support unit I have is the M106A2. It's a mortar, and I don't have any artillery in this deck, but I find this mortar is good enough for the purposes I need it. I tend to take a few of these out at one time, and then I can kind of bombard different city areas, different forests. It has pretty good range. Obviously not going to have the entire map range that some artillery units have, but you put this back behind your front lines, and it can definitely support your infantry, and it's really, really good for sending smoke. Very accurate, very fast firing, everything I want in a mortar. So I really like using these. Tanks, I am not too educated and experienced with tanks. Usually when I send tanks out, they tend to get killed, so I try to take some lower cost tanks, and I don't take quite as many, so that I don't get myself in too much trouble in those destruction matches and not feed the enemy too many points. So I take the M1IP, I believe, Abrams. I take a couple of cards of those. They're pretty cheap, and you can kind of spam those whenever you need some armor out on the field. And then if you're thinking you're doing really well, you can take the M1A1 Abrams, and that can give you a little boost in firepower and armor there. And if you're really, really feeling like it's just kind of a stomping of the enemy team, go ahead and throw out an M1A2 Abrams to just make, finish the game that much quicker. But I usually just use the M1IP Abrams due to my experience with tanks and my not very good babysitting of them. So they tend to die. So I'll take cheaper tanks for kind of cannon fodder almost. We'll move on to recon, a very, very important tab of your army. Take out the AH-640 longbow. Very, very, very good recon unit. Overpowered to the point to where they are going to be nerfing it a little bit in the next patch. By availability, right now I can have 3. I don't think I'm going to be able to do that in the next patch. I think it gets down to 2. And I feel like that's probably necessary. It's a very good unit, and you need to take really good care of this because it will pay off if you use it with care and caution. Bradley CFV, very good optics, a ground unit, and it also comes with the TOW-2 missiles. So the TOW-2 gun. Very, very good at taking out tanks that it sees initially. It's kind of your put out in the front lines. Oh, I see a tank. Shoot it and scoot back a little bit. Get that initial hit on it and then kind of back up and tell everybody else in your army, oh, well, there's a tank coming this way. It's partially damaged, so go ahead and finish it off. I kind of keep that one whenever I'm using tanks. I'll keep this one with my tanks to kind of to be their eyes. Cavalry Scouts and a Huey. This is kind of your tripwire recon unit. I like to fly multiples of these out at the very beginning and kind of put them in different flanks and sides of the map where somebody might try to sneak enemy units across water or through forest. I like to keep these guys placed in various spots around the map. Kind of keep eyes everywhere in case anybody tries to sneak anything in, and you can put them on the front lines as well. But keep their weapons turned off. That way they won't be giving away their position. Some of this is more. Some of this information is a little bit more than new players might understand. But just take all of it with a grain of salt, and keep the basic ideas. And the more experienced players might understand a little bit more of the more complex ideas here. But once again, I myself am still a pretty new player, so my word is not God. And next we have the Navy SEALs, are a very, very good recon unit. I like to take them with maybe my Marines into a city skirmish or even into a forest skirmish. I like to keep them supported. They are very, very good against infantry, but you're going to need something else to keep them healthy when it comes to vehicles and armor. So definitely complement them with another unit that can handle those types of enemies. Vehicles. Now, vehicles are probably my least used in this deck. I don't know what is optimal here, but I do take some Ontos that have been recommended to me. Very, very cheap, spammable form of AT. They do some decent damage against tanks, and they can actually do some decent damage against infantry too, so it's not a bad idea to send a couple of these with them. They're pretty cheap. If you have some infantry out there, send them with some Ontos, and you'll probably be alright. They'll be kind of a big gun to go behind you and give you that little edge over the enemy infantry if you need it. A CEV as well is a pretty good complement to infantry with that giant 165mm gun. You can send that with your Marines and your infantry in the woods and the forest. Probably not in the cities. Cities are not a very good place for vehicles of any type. Cities are not good for vehicles or tanks, so try to keep them away from there. But if you're going to do some pushing around through a forest flank, send a CEV with them, and if they meet any enemies in that forest, then the CEV should also give you another one of those little edges to keep on pushing through. Helicopters, I use the OH-58CS to kind of fly around, maybe with my longbow, to keep the longbow safe from any enemy air helicopters. The longbow is susceptible to air enemies. It doesn't really have a defense against enemy helicopters or jets or anything, so this provides a small deterrent, not a huge one. Definitely keep track of your longbow and keep it away from enemies as much as possible, but this will help out a little bit and give them a little bit of cushion. AH-1F Cobra, maybe not the best choice for a gunship, but again, helicopters, aircraft, and tanks are a little bit more complicated for me. I'm still getting used to infantry and support vehicles, which I think is pretty typical for new players. I tend to be a little careless with my expensive units, so I try not to put too many units, expensive units out, and try not to put too expensive of units out. So I'll take a lot of times I'll take the cheaper option rather than a Apache, which Apache is a very, very good ship, but the Cobra is cheaper, and if I'm using it right, I should be able to do okay with it. And here comes the air tab, which the USA has a lot of options for air. And I'll just kind of go down quickly what I used for my seed plane, taking out enemy radar weapons. I'll use the EA-68 Prowler. You get a couple of those, 110 points. If you foul up on the first one, try not to do it with the second one. Very, very good, good planes to have. F-16C Block 52. That's going to be used for my air superiority as a fighter, fighting off any other planes. Once again, I try my best not to use these because I get pretty careless with them, and these are very expensive to lose and can really sway the direction of a game if you lose too many of them. And myself, I'm not very good at what they call microing my planes, so I'm very careful with them. Then you have a F-15D Eagle. This is your bomber. Carries a 4 1,000 kilogram bombs. If you need something in a forest or in a city just blown up, or if you see a big clumped push, depending on how much is clumped and what is clumped in there, 160 points. If you can get away with getting a good bombing run off and it survives, it's probably paid for itself there. Make sure you have it pay for itself with that 160 point price tag. It can be a very expensive loss if you kill, maybe a 15 point unit and then they shoot it out of the sky. Not a very good investment. Hornets, this will be your anti-tank jet. If you see some tanks coming out without any anti-air support, you can send this out there and it should do a pretty good number on them. And you can probably finish it off with whatever you have on the ground as well, hopefully. Once again, expensive aircraft here, so use it cautiously. Definitely use it cautiously. Phantom is going to be your F-45 Phantom 2 will be your napalm unit. Once again, if you have a bunch of infantry hanging out in forests or cities, this is a good way to get them their morale lowered and get some damage on them at the same time. Another semi-expensive unit. Jets are expensive, so once again, use these with a lot of caution. Sometimes I don't use them at all, just to practice on my other areas of my deck with tanks and helicopters and things. I'll kind of won't use my planes unless I absolutely have to. So that is a little bit of a summary of this deck. I'll put the string that you can copy and paste and import into your own Wargame Red Dragon of this deck. So if you'd like to use it, you can with that string, and feel free to just change as much as you want to better fit your playstyle. And once again, I am relatively new to this game, less than 100 games, so take all of this with a grain of salt. I just wanted to put this out there for new players who are going to be coming into the game and have no idea what they were doing, just like me. Luckily, I was streaming some of this game, and I had a few players who would pop in and kind of help me create decks. And over the time, after creating decks like that, reading some guides, I managed to kind of put this together. And this is kind of where I stand right now with my USA deck. So, as always, I hope this helped. And until next time, good luck and have fun.